these actors are demanding 70, 80, 90 crores. Do you think it's justified? Like, why are they getting paid so much?
Have you watched a movie called Kisi Ka Bhai, Kisi Ki Jaan? Yeah. So these are films that did 100 and 200 crores respectively at the box office. Okay. You know why that happened?
Salman.
Because of the sheer stardom of Salman Khan. And that is what justifies his fees.
But do you think that we've become formulaic?
They're teaching you stuff about Stelini and Guru Dutt and all of that. It's all great, you know. They're absolute icons and absolute legends in the space. But is that where the media and entertainment sector is today? Answer is not.
Tell us about anecdotes of the industry, maybe.
In fact, it's a sector where you'll be scrutinized. Hollywood did that back in the day. K-dramas are doing it now. As the Indian entertainment fraternity really need that support, one, from the authorities to be able to do it at scale.
What kind of support?
You cannot have entertainment being taxed or being scrutinized or being made to go through compliances that are as stringent as let's say, alcohol or as cigarettes or anything else, right? Now, cinemas, I truly believe, Apoorva, are that one place that bring people together, right? When you are reacting to a certain scene, you're not looking at what the ethnicity or demographic or gender or religion of the cast or the person sitting next to you is. You're all reacting with the same emotions.
Who do you think is the next generation of bankable superstars?
Ranbir is now a bona fide star.
बिन बुलाया घुसाया मैं माना ये है मिस्टेक लेकिन मिस्टेक के पीछे तो था इरादा मेरा.
Is there money in this industry? Like, there have been a lot of reports recently where people are saying that content is in a crisis. Hi sir, thank you so much for taking out time for this. I know you've had a crazy schedule. You always do. You've been really busy. And firstly, I'd like to introduce you to our viewers. This is Mr. Akshay Rathi. He's been an integral part of the film industry, and not just the film industry, I'd say the entire media and entertainment industry in the last decade or so. He's a director at Ashirwad Theatres, and he's also started his own podcast very recently called The Filmy Hustle, which is live on YouTube, Spotify, and across platforms. Really happy to have you on board. The first time that I met you, I think, was at ISB about 4 years ago. And you've done a lot of workshops with us, sessions with industry stalwarts, not just on the creative side, but people in OTT. And I remember that not just me, but a lot of my batchmates who were a part of the Media and Entertainment Club were very excited because for the first time we got to know there's a possibility to make a career in this field as well. So I'd like to start with that. What is your thinking on scope of people from an MBA background or a corporate background to get into the industry? How do they make it?
So, Apoorv, first things first, thank you for having me over. Truly a pleasure. Always very excited to have conversations with bright young minds like you and, to do it on camera and to see you starting a podcast like this is very exciting. Very, very proud of you and very happy that you're making your own gig in that sense. So, congratulations on that again.
Thanks a lot.
Now, about making careers in the media and entertainment sector, Apoorv, I really think that, it's an industry which has a serious gap between the demand and supply when it comes to actually, having credible talent to be a part of it. It can do with hundreds and hundreds of more professionals to come in and make a career and add value to the industry. The only thing that's unfortunate in this sector is that if you want to make a career in, let's say, in the medical professions or in law or something that's engineering related or something that's business like. There's formal education which is well defined and pretty elaborate.
Right.
So you do an MBA, you can make a career in management. You do your, MBBS or MD or whatever, you can make a career in medicine.
Right.
You do your engineering, you can make a career in the sciences. For media and entertainment in India, unfortunately, an overwhelming majority of the people who want to make those careers have no formal education opportunities in India, which really train you in a manner that suits the contemporary outlook of the sector.
Okay.
So a lot of the film schools out here, they're teaching you stuff about Stelini and Guru Dutt and all of that. It's all great, they're absolute icons and absolute legends in the space. But is that where the media and entertainment sector is today? Answer is not. So we really need people or educational institutions or organizations that groom people who are excited to be a part of this sector to become abreast with where the sector is today and where it's headed tomorrow. There are hardly any film schools in India which are teaching you about, let's say, the impact of technology and AI on storytelling.
Right.
There are hardly any, film schools that are teaching you about the intellectual property rights that are being carved out now, which are going to be the biggest sources of monetization for content going ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, is where, most people who want to be a part of it come and approach companies that participate in this sector and are literally learning on the job. Now, this is a sector that, in terms of its monetary value, right? Let's say the Indian entertainment industry, when it comes to theatrical revenues, the annual average theatrical revenues are around 12,000 crores, which is what? The value of a mid-cap or, a very tiny large-cap company on the exchanges, which is literally nothing. And therefore, this sector doesn't justify paying salaries to people to actually teach them on the job. They always look out for people who have a certain degree of experience and understanding of the sector, and that's when they get hired. And that is what creates a bit of a barrier for some bright young minds to come and be a part of it. So the day there is a system which trains people and makes them, good enough to knock on the doors of the industry and from day one start participating productively in the sector's growth, I can assure you people would be welcomed in this sector with a red carpet.
But what's the blocker then? Where do you see that happening?
See, it's prioritization, right? Because traditionally, it's jobs in the space of engineering or consulting or FMCG or e-retail that have been paying extremely well. And that's exactly why most of the premier education institutions in the country are actually giving you education or imparting education which grooms young minds to be a part of those sectors. The number of people that, let's say, an Ernst & Young would hire or a Flipkart would hire or a Instamart would hire out of an ISB, an IIM, an SPJ, and a Jamnalal Bajaj would be much, much higher compared to what, let's say, a Geo Studios would, a Netflix would, a PVR would, right? And that's exactly why the education systems are focused to create talent that goes into those sectors. So it's a question of prioritization. And I really think that, the opportunity and the upside of people being hired into the media and entertainment sector is huge. It's just that we don't have those training grounds for those people. We don't have those courses or those curriculums which train people to be a part of it. And I think it'll just take some proactive efforts from some good educational institutions to do that. And when that happens, you know it, right? From ISB, there are so many people who are now CEOs and CXOs in the media and entertainment sector. But it took them a while to get there. For the simple reason that they weren't trained to be a part of that sector. They went in early at the lower rungs of the hierarchy and rose up the ranks because of their merits and because of their, their ability, their intelligence, their interest, their drive, whatever you call it. So I really hope that more educational institutes participate in this journey and create some fantastic talent. And I can assure you, Apoorv, it's an industry that's waiting for great people and bright young minds who are driven and who understand this sector to come and take it to newer heights.
Right, I think Siddharth Roy Kapoor is a great example of that. I think he's an MBA. He was working at PNG for a while, then he joined Ronnie Screwvala, and now he's operating his own production house.
Absolutely. And between that, he led Disney as its managing director for a fair bit of time. There's him, there's Ajit Andare, who's from ISB, who's been leading Viacom 18. Kamal Yanchandani, I believe, is, an MBA as well. I think he did a stint at ISB as well, and he is the CEO of PVR Pictures.
Okay.
So there are quite a few people in that sense. Not that I've achieved as much as them, but I'm from SPJ and I think I'm doing reasonably okay in the sector. So there are quite a few people like that. And it's taken them the grind to really, learn on the job and rise up the ranks. But all of them have made it.
So what would be your advice, let's say, to a 20-year-old who's watching this? I understand that there are blockers in the education system right now. But if there is an 18, 20-year-old, let's say in Delhi, Bombay, and he wants to pursue a career in film, not probably on the creative side, but on the business side of things, what should he do? How should he go about it?
Apoorv, first things first, a talent like that, or if I may call it in human HR terminology, a resource like that should be very clear about his reasons to be a part of this sector. An overwhelming number of people who want to be a part of it, unfortunately, want to be a part of it for the wrong reasons. Where the glitz and glam of this sector really enamors people, and then they, find a way to enter it, or, find a way to really keep knocking at its doors. And unfortunately, success eludes them for the simple reason that once you're in this industry, it's like any other sector. All of us roll up our sleeves, log the hell out. In fact, it's a sector where you'll be scrutinized. Not just if you're on-screen talent, even otherwise, you'll be scrutinized a lot more brutally because intrinsically this sector has the spotlight on it.
Right.
So whether you're a filmmaker, whether you're a film professional, whether you work in a studio, wherever you are, right, your failures are also under the spotlight as much as your successes are.
That's true.
So it's a brutal sector. And it's important to realize that this is a sector where all of us are working not to be famous, not to be popular, not to be under the spotlight, but to create IPs and to monetize them well. That is what this sector does. And the day that clarity comes into the minds of people who want to be a part of it, I think they'll be a lot more clear and non-myopic about, their journey into it. So I really hope that that screensaver of the glamour of what you see on, portals that report the entertainment sector, I hope they realize that it's only and only a facade. There's a hell lot of hard work, a hell lot of hustle, a hell lot of disappointments, a hell lot of, efforts that go into making a successful career out here. But on the flip side, once you make it, I also think it's one of the most rewarding sectors.
Okay.
It's a sector that, that gives you glory if you make it in a manner that no other sector does.
Why would you say that?
For the simple reason, Apoorv, that if you're doing well, like I said, intrinsically, this is a sector that puts the spotlight on you. I'll give you an example from ISB, right? The very year when I started engaging with ISB, I think it was 2017 and your annual leadership summit, right? ILS.
Yes.
Now, what I remember is the first year that I was there speaking, there were two sessions that I was a part of. There was Mr. Karan Johar and me in conversation. And then there was another one on the second day that was Mr. Abhishek Bachchan and me in conversation. Now, what I remember is there were some absolute stalwarts from business, from politics, from the sciences, from education, from various sectors who were also speakers at that summit. Trust me, Apoorv, it was very, very embarrassing for us to see that some of the leading businessmen, some of the leading scientists, some of the leading politicians and policymakers of the country could fill up the auditorium with lesser capacity than Mr. Karan Johar and I could, or Mr. Abhishek Bachchan and I could. Now, this doesn't mean that we are more accomplished than any of them. Of course, in terms of the impact they're having on the country, it's huge, right? The politicians, the industrialists we're talking about. But the fact that at a premier B school like ISB, Mr. Karan Johar and Mr. Abhishek Bachchan could fill auditoriums quicker and better predominantly tells you about the intrinsic nature of this business.
Of course.
It is something that whether we like it or not, that enamors people. It is something that people find aspirational. And that's exactly why things are the way they are.
Yeah, makes sense. But you spoke about reward. Is there money in this industry? Like there have been a lot of reports recently where people are saying that content is in a crisis, especially in Bollywood. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, see, of course, there is a bit of a crisis which suddenly came into being after the pandemic, right?
Okay.
It literally was a bit of a, uncalled for or unexpected reset that happened for the whole sector, right? See, every sector changes over time. The streaming platforms were knocking at the doors of the Indian market as well. It would have taken a certain amount of time and a comfortable paradigm shift over a period of time for consumption patterns to change. Now, what happened is, for those 2 years, 1.5, 2 years of the lockdown, cinema halls were ordered shut. And the only avenue of recreation or consuming entertainment that people had was streaming or home entertainment. Now, a process that would have otherwise taken 7 to 10 years in terms of finding that equilibrium of what people consume in cinemas versus what they consume on streaming, that 7-year process got condensed to literally being a 1.5-year process. And that obviously rattled the entire entertainment ecosystem, and it took them a while to figure out what people want to consume, where they want to consume it, at what price points do they want to consume it, what are the factors that help them decide what they want to consume and where they want to consume. And that's why it obviously was a bit of a rattle scenario where all of us were, everyone from filmmakers to actors to distributors, exhibitors, streaming platforms, terrestrial channels, everyone were just trying to figure out their way in this new normal, right? And I think now we are pretty much close to finding an equilibrium.
Okay.
And having said that, while people are saying that, there's a crisis and people are not turning up at cinemas and stuff, ironically, Apoorv, if you look at it, back in the day before the pandemic, the biggest benchmarks of success in terms of the box office was a 300 something crores at the box office. Post the pandemic, you've had multiple Indian films do a 500 crore. You've had a Pushpa, a Triple R do 1,000 crores at the box office, right? So what's happened is it's become a very 6 or a hit wicket scenario where people are a lot more clear about what they want to watch at home. For those kind of films, they'll just not turn up at the cinemas. So that mid-segment hit, right? The Ayushmann Khurrana stereotypical film, the Rajkumar Rao stereotypical film, those are not doing as well as they used to. But then the big ones, which are, the big screen spectacles, the immersive viewing experiences, Jawan, Pathan, Gadar, Animal, Pushpa, Stree 2, all of these have become ballistic monsters because people are not just watching them, but they are watching them again and again.
Right.
So it's become a spectacle scenario, right? It's like going for the opera or going for a big show that's coming to your city. It's like going to a concert. And Apoorv, unfortunately, that's not a very nice thing. Because there's only an X number of these tentpole films that can be made in India because they require a certain budget, they require a certain, star cast, which can only do 1 or 2 films in a year, each one of those big stars. So to go from this, this one blockbuster to the other, in the middle, you need those smaller films that actually do the numbers.
Right.
That's why these 12 fails, Lapata Ladies, Zara Hatke Zara Bachke kind of movies, for them to do well, to take you from one tentpole to the other, is extremely crucial. And I think now is the time when we are seeing a few of those actually make a bit of a comeback. And of course, in terms of the quality of storytelling in those kind of films, as an industry, we have to up the ante. We have to make sure that we give the audience enough value for their money for them to turn up for these films as well. And I think that realization is largely kicked in.
Correct.
There is a rejig on the commercials, on the kind of monies that are spent, on the talent that does these films, the budgets that with which these are mounted. So all of that's happening. I think it's a matter of another 6 months to 1 year max before we find that equilibrium again and we have a better strike rate of success at the box office when it comes to our films.
Makes sense. But do you think that we've become formulaic? Like when Netflix came in India about 7-8 years ago, it started expanding. Firstly, they launched Sacred Games, right? It was a huge hit among audiences and it created a niche. People were excited with the kind of content they're bringing to India. But now their content strategy, I think, has really changed. They've become more mainstream. They've started sort of greenlighting almost everything and they've also gone after stars now. Do you think that's the case? And if yes, then why do you think that's happening?
See, Apoorv, it predominantly stems from understanding the Indian market, right? Let's realize the fact that India is not a value market, it's a volume market.
Okay.
An overwhelming majority of the Indian demographic, the common man of India, which you and me are, slightly disconnected from. We're not those people, but there's a great degree of wisdom it takes to understand those people, right? To give you a parallel example, one of the most successful companies or conglomerates in India is Reliance, right? If you look at the biggest of their businesses, back in the day it was petroleum, before that it was textiles, then there was, data in the form of telecom, now it's retail.
Right.
For any company to succeed at that scale in India, you cannot be catering to that niche which has a very high disposable income. You need to cater to a huge volume. Your target audience has to be the 1.4 billion Indians.
But sorry to cut you there. Don't you think that Netflix has a global audience and even a Sacred Games, I think, was viewed more internationally than it was viewed in India? So why do they need to restrict everything to create IPs for Indian audiences?
They don't need to. So they need to do a mix of everything, Apoorv. But here's the fact, right? An overwhelming majority of what's created out of India, why not cater to that 1.4 billion strong audience that we understand as Indians, as Indian filmmakers, as Indian storytellers, right? Look at China, for example, right? The only market in the world that you can compare to India when it comes to the size of the demographic, right? In terms of the sheer population, the strength of the domestic market is China. and look at how amazing they've become in terms of just strengthening their domestic market before thinking international. I'm not saying there's any harm in trying to appeal to the French or the European or the American or whichever ethnicities.
Right.
We absolutely should. But before doing that, let's actually consolidate and strengthen our own market. And of course, there's a middle ground where we can do both, right? I mean, a movie like RRR did phenomenally well in India, did phenomenally well with the American ethnicity in America and in Japan, which is a very contrasting market to either of these ethnicities in terms of the way they think and the way they consume their content. Dangal did what it did in China.
Right.
Secret Superstar did what it did in China, right? But those are examples which are far and few between. We should do that. We should aspire to take Indian cinema to the world. Our Honorable Prime Minister has been talking about how entertainment is a huge soft power, right? And if you look at America, Hollywood has been used as an outstanding soft power to make America an aspirational land. You realize most American films, when we were growing up in the 80s, 90s, spoke about how aliens landed up on Earth and it was only the Americans who could save them. They showed New York like, it's God's gift to humanity. India, Apoorv, is an amazing country where you have such amazing diversity of flora, fauna, topography, cultures, languages, religions, so much more. Unfortunately, with our films, we've not been able to showcase that to the world yet. We've done it, but not as much as we can. And I really think that the day we start doing it, especially through platforms like Netflix or Disney, Hotstar or Amazon, which are global platforms, I think our stories can really travel and appeal to the world in an amazing way. Look at what Korea is doing, right?
Right, exactly.
K-dramas today are suddenly capturing the world's imagination. Hollywood did that back in the day. K-dramas are doing it now. And I really think that we as Indians, as the Indian entertainment fraternity, really need that support, one, from the authorities to be able to do it at scale.
What kind of support?
Everything, Apoorv. I mean, if you look at how much of regulation we face as the entertainment industry, I mean, it's almost like we're being treated like we're a sin sector, right? You cannot have entertainment being taxed or being scrutinized or being made to go through compliances that are as stringent as let's say, alcohol or as cigarettes or anything else, right? I'll give you my own example. We run cinemas, right? Every single year, we need to procure 14 NOCs from different departments to be able to procure a license to run a cinema hall. Now, cinemas, I truly believe, Apoorva, are that one place that bring people together, right? When you are reacting to a certain scene, you're not looking at what the ethnicity or demographic or gender or religion of the cast or the person sitting next to you is. You're all reacting with the same emotions as one people. So it's actually a unifying force, I believe. And we are taxing this at 18% from the, of GST on the movie tickets. We are taxing, a lot of the food and beverages at a certain bracket. We are making it tough for this sector to operate purely in terms of the costs and compliances. Now for it to really be the China story, where we hear so many people talk about how India should be the next China, there should be a higher density of screens. We are only 9,300 cinema screens, while China is 70,000. We need to get there. China got there because of unprecedented support from the policymakers. Where there was deeply subsidized land, there was deeply subsidized electricity. And all of that happened in a span of just about a decade because there was that push from the policymakers. Here, whatever little success that this sector finds, it's not because of the policy, it's despite the policies. And it's unfortunate that it's that way, right? And I really think that our Honorable Prime Minister has this vision for India. It's just a matter of unshackling this sector with the right policies and giving it a free hand. I'm not saying we need rebates, we need subsidies. All of that maybe not, it's not a priority for the authorities. All I'm saying is just deregulate it a little. I genuinely believe, Apoorv, that Indian entrepreneurs are enterprising enough to find a way around raising the finance for it, doing what is required to make world-class products and to get the consumers to theaters in a big way, right? And by doing that, we won't just be churning out revenues for the industry, we'll also be paying taxes, we'll also be contributing to the country's growth, which all of us take a lot of pride in. So it's just about unshackling this industry and letting it be. Right?
Got it.
And the day that happens, I assure you, Apoorv, we as Indian entrepreneurs will do what it takes to take this sector to great heights.
No, completely makes sense. But on a lighter note, I'd like to ask you, why are popcorn prices so high?
So, Apoorv,
At a PVR.
now I'll tell you what, right? I'll ask you a counter question to that.
Yeah.
Do you like a good dal makhani?
Yeah.
Do you always go to, let's say, Bukhara at the ITC to have it?
No.
Where do you have it?
Some local fine dining restaurant, Punjab Grill is good and
How
good.
much does it cost there?
I guess 350.
How much does it cost in Bukhara?
3 times probably.
Tell me, is PVR or Inox the only cinema that you have in Delhi?
No. There are others.
There are various others,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
There is a DT, there is a Wave, there is a Cinepolis, there is, Mukta, there is a Mirage, there is a Movie Time. Apoorv, check the popcorn prices in all of these, and I can promise you they aren't as high as they are at PVR, right?
Yeah.
See, it's a simple thing. You can't go to Bukhara and tell them कि यार वो काके दे ढाबा पे तो यार दाल मखनी 250 रुपए की आप क्यों 900 की बेच रहे हो?
Maybe makes sense.
So they honestly, as the exhibition sector, we have offerings for every demographic of the country, and then it's about you figuring out where you get value for your money. The other thing I can tell you, Apoorv, is contrary to what a lot of people think, a lot of the standalone single screen cinemas or these smaller multiplex chains, they are only surviving because they've made their offerings at par with the expectations of the audience today. That perception of single screen cinemas being run down, where you have Rexine seats on the seats and run down shitty toilets, is not true anymore.
Yeah.
You go to any of them, they're actually damn good. The air conditioning is nice. The projection and sound systems are as good as they are in a PVR. All of that's there. So it's your choice. Do you want to pay for a swanky foyer and an experience which seems aspirational, or do you want the same experience, the same light, the same sound, an equally good offering of food and beverages at half the cost? It's just about you making that choice, and it's about the consumers making that choice. Right. And the day they do that, I promise you won't complain about the popcorn prices.
But what are the economics of running a theatre, like a PVR or a single screen, for instance? How much is the revenue attributable to the F&B? And how much is towards the ticket prices?
So, Apoorv, the national average of, if there are 100 people who go for a movie, it's only about 25 to 30% of them which actually consume the food and beverages.
Oh, is it?
That's right.
Okay.
So, see, here's the thing, Apoorv. When I start a cinema, my average ticket price in India, right, is about 230 rupees.
Okay.
In this, from a PVR Gold Class, which is the most premium offering, to a standalone single screen, in a tier 2, tier 3 town, the average ticket price of the Indian market is 230 rupees. Now measure that to, let's say, North America or any of the developed markets, right? The average ticket prices are $10 to $15.
Okay.
Now, while what I charge a consumer is almost a 1/5 of North America, the projection systems that we deploy are the same. The sound systems that we deploy are the same. The cost of creating that infrastructure is the same.
Okay.
So, because I'm charging a much lower ticket price, I need to subsidize that ticket price by charging a premium elsewhere.
Got it.
By creating ancillary revenues from elsewhere. So, the ads that irritate you before the movie plays, which play for 15-20 minutes, are actually subsidizing the movie-going experience for you as a consumer. If I get rid of those and I still want to be profitable, then I'll have to charge a much higher ticket price to get people in, which I don't want to do. We don't want to create entry barriers for people to come into the theaters. But then to be able to do that and to still be somewhat profitable, and if you look at it, most of the cinema chains, and some of them are public limited companies, and the data is out there for you to see, right? It's not like they're making a killing with revenues, and by charging you 400 rupees for popcorn, they're looting you, and they are, they are ruling the rules by making some supernormal profits. All of them are just about surviving.
Okay.
So it's about finding that equilibrium and that balance of economics. And here's the thing, like I said, if you want the cheap popcorn in the cola, I won't say cheap, I'd say reasonably priced popcorn or cola, go to a Movie Max, go to a Mirage, go to a standalone screen. And I can also tell you that for a lot of the films that are really working, for a Stree, for a Pushpa, for a Jawan, for a Pathan, for an Animal, for a Gadar, and maybe I'm just endorsing the kind of cinemas that I run. Trust me, it's a lot more fun to watch it with 400 people in a single screen cinema who are clapping, whistling, and having a blast without worrying about whether the people around them are judging them for their actions. we Indians are about the collective viewing experience.
Of course, of course.
Trust me, to let your hair down, shout, scream, and have a blast when Allu Arjun does what he does in a Pushpa, and to see a Shah Rukh Khan make that Masi entry. Yeah. It's a lot of fun, and you can have that experience more times in a year by spending little lesser money on every outing compared to really donating half your kidney and going for a very premium movie experience.
No, I agree.
Once or twice in a year. Yeah.
Of course, I agree. I will never be able to replace that experience with an OTT platform. But do you think?
In fact, Apoorv, I should talk about this, right? You're from Agra.
Yeah.
You've probably heard of a cinema called Shree Cinema in Agra.
Yeah.
Are you aware of what they're doing with the movies?
I haven't been there in a while, but while growing up, I've been there every week.
Next time you're in Agra, check it out. They've actually brought down the ticket prices to as low as 50 rupees for a morning show that they do.
Okay.
And that is a show which, purely on the strength of that ticket price, does extremely good numbers. They do a lot of old re-releases, they do new films, they do a mix and match of things. But purely by, targeting the least common denominator of the social strata and make it financially accessible for them, they're actually doing a damn bloody good job. So it is really something that I think a lot of cinema halls across the country should take inspiration from and actually experiment with it. And I genuinely think it'll work wonders.
Got it. One interesting question, how much does PVR dominate this market? Is there a complete monopoly? Like, what percentage is fragmented?
So, Apoorv, in terms of the entire pie of presence in the Indian market, right? There are about 9,200 to 9,300 cinemas in the country. Out of which, after the merger of Inox and PVR happened, there are roughly around 1,900 to 2,000 screens that they have. And then between Cinepolis, Wave, and some of the other multiplex chains, there are another 1,000 odd.
Okay.
So roughly 3,100, 3,200 screens out of the 9,300 are these multiplex screens.
1/3.
That's right. And the rest of them are still standalone, single screens, independent multiplexes, etc.
Got it.
So that's the division. Now, when it comes to revenues, it's a question of the kind of film that you're talking about. A film that predominantly has a very urban, and when I say urban, I don't mean geographically, I mean intellectually, right? You're from Agra, which is not a tier 1 town, but I'm assuming you really enjoy a Lapata Ladies or a good Hollywood film and all of that. So you're the urban market, despite coming from a tier 2 town. And then there are people in a Bombay who may be working as, salespeople in a grocery store or as a watchman or as a taxi driver. Now, while they're living in urban India geographically, the consumption patterns and their thought process is still very, very mass, very tier 2, tier 3. So for films that cater to the urban mindset, obviously an overwhelming majority of the revenues come from a PVR, Inox, Cinepolis, etc. Yep. But for a film like Animal, for a film like Gadar, for a film like Pushpa, which caters to the mass mindset or is universal in terms of its appeal, that percentage of contribution to the revenues from a PVR, Inox goes much lower for the simple reason that is when the single screens and the standalones really perform big numbers.
Got it.
So for a film like that, it's actually as low as a 20-something%. But for a film like, let's say, Lapata Ladies or 12th Fail or these, so to say, films that appeal to an urban mindset, it's close to almost 60, 70, 80%.
Got it.
So it's purely a question of what content appeals to the audience that goes to those screens versus the rest of the long tail of the exhibition sector.
Understood. Do you think that because of the launch of OTT, people say that cinemas have taken a hit? I know, I was coming to that it can't ever replace that experience for me. But some movies like Lapata Ladies, for instance, firstly, do they release in theaters or do they only release on OTT? And if they do, does a release on OTT hamper their chances of a better box office return on theaters? Another question to add to that is that I read a report where they said that, I'm not sure if it's true, I'd like to confirm that with you, that OTTs now have a mandate to release a movie in theaters for at least 3 to 4 weeks before they come to OTT. Why is that?
So, Apoorv, the mandate is not to have a theatrical release and have a run of 3 to 4 weeks. It's a 8-week window that has been agreed upon mutually between filmmakers and studios, exhibitors and the streaming platform, right? Where to give the theatrical monetization a chance. filmmakers are saying that for 8 weeks from the date we release in theaters, we won't put it out on streaming, on satellite, or anywhere else. In a very soft manner, it is a communication to the audiences that if it is a movie that you're excited about, if there's some FOMO around it, and you want to watch it, for 8 weeks it's not coming anywhere else, you might as well watch it in theaters, and that's an incentive, very psychologically and softly, for people to turn up at cinema halls. And that is something that most people in the country now largely understand. So that's about the windowing. And about the cannibalization of revenues or consumption, Apoorv, what's happened is, it very categorically, and it's more pronounced than ever before. The audiences very clearly know what they want to consume where. So anything that's a big screen spectacle, right? A Bahubali which has those production values, or an immersive viewing experience, something like an Avatar or an Avengers Endgame, which is optimally consumed only on IMAX or in 3D. And then the third being collective viewing experiences, right? I mean, something like a Gadar. I don't know if you saw, if you went to the cinemas to watch Gadar.
I did.
It was quite amazing, where the first Gadar had come almost 20 years ago. And from the memory of it, when Sunny Deol, breaks into Main Nikla Gadi Leke in the new one, there are hundreds of people who are singing along. So that collective viewing experience, where the way the people around you are reacting to what's happening on the screen, adds to the consumption experience.
Right.
Down south, it happens when there's a Rajnikant movie or an Ajit movie or a Vijay movie, Allu Arjun, Tarak, Mahesh Babu, their movies, where it almost feels like you're sitting in a stadium with people cheering for their star. So fan service is happening where they are reacting, they are having a blast. It's a carnival, right? So those kind of things are essentially consumed. Movies that do all of this are consumed only in theaters. But for a movie whether you watch it on a screen on your palm or in a theater, if there's no change or value addition to your consumption experience, then people will obviously choose convenience, which is sitting at home and watching it on a TV screen, or watching it on your palm on a mobile screen. So I think the job is of the entertainment sector, our writers, our filmmakers, our actors, our technicians, to craft in a very scientific and thought out manner experiences that are cinematic, experiences that push the people and give them that value addition to consume it in cinema halls. And the day we do that, I think we'll have a much better strike rate. And I can assure you, Apoorv, the entire entertainment ecosystem now understands that the ask to bring people to cinema halls is much greater, and we need to up the ante and make sure that we give them those incentives in a very clear manner and make them turn up in cinema halls. And you'll start seeing the results of that very, very soon.
Got it. Oh, I understand. So you brought this up about Gadar too. I think a reason why it worked also was because of nostalgia, right? I mean, it was a good film, it was a good entertainer, but people who primarily went for that film were people who watched the first part 20 years ago and they wanted to see Sunny Deol in action again. It was also like a comeback for him. After many years he was returning. Do you think that we are now starting to like create a formula around making sequels again and again? Like recently I saw a teaser of Avarapan 2. People are re-releasing films like Sanam Teri Kasam, which didn't work at that point in time. It re-released, it did good numbers. Tumbar did the same. And also like these franchises like Houseful or Welcome, sometimes the story is not connected at all to the previous film, but we still rely on a sequel to make it. What are your thoughts on it? Do you think that this is the right direction that we're going in, or are we losing originality?
It's a bit of both, right? I mean, for every Gadar 2 that is done well, there is a Jawan that was a standalone that did equally well. There was an Animal that did equally well. For every Stree 2 that's done very well, there is a Lapata Ladies, there is a, Zara Atke, Zara Bachke, there is a 12 Fail that does equally well. So it's a bit of both that's happening. But this whole thing of franchises and universes that's happening, right? It's not something that's just happening in India, right?
Yeah,
Hollywood has been marvelized in that sense, where the big ticket movies are either from the DC universe or the Marvel universe and stuff like that. Now that's happening because with the movie going experience becoming pretty, cost, time and effort consuming, people want to be a little more sure of venturing out. And that's why what they look out for is familiarity. And when you know that अच्छा Stree 2 है, Stree में मजा आया था, and the other movies that came in that universe, which is Bhediya or the others that came along, those were fun. तो हाँ चलो उसके लिए चलते हैं. So people are, I think,
they know what they're signing up for.
They know what they're signing up for.
Makes sense.
And for the other movies, I think there's discoverability that happens, slowly and steadily, and then the movies keep doing well over a period of time. So it's a mix and match of both. And
maybe it's also that studios are more confident of greenlighting a script once they know that it comes with a well-known brand.
Well, I'll tell you a thing, right? In most of the studios, the people who are making decisions have no skin in the game. Eventually, they are answerable to somebody, and they are all trying to safeguard their own jobs and justify their decisions. Now, for me to say that here's a damn good script and I have a lot of conviction on it, and I'll sign a new director or a new actor and make it because it's a damn good script, God forbid it tanks, right? There's your neck on the line for greenlighting that content. Versus that if you say, here's the filmmaker who's delivered so-and-so hits, here's the actor who's delivered so-and-so hits, we brought them together. So we did our best. We got the formula that has delivered success. Uske baad chali, nahi chali, that's, their job.
Right.
We did our job by getting people who've delivered well
Reducing
together.
risk, basically.
So, reducing risk and basically saving their own necks.
Yeah.
Right? It's an easier justification to whoever they report to say, yaar, hum to, we brought in the dal and the chawal to make the khichdi. Ab wo nahi bani achhi, so, it's their fault.
Yeah.
So technically, when the buck doesn't stop at people who are the decision makers, these are the things that happen, and that's where you lose out on a lot of originality, a lot of experimentation, a lot of, pushing the envelope. And very honestly, the new thing that a lot of people are relying on is data. Where they're saying that dark, edgy crime films have been doing well, so ye banate. Right? If that was the case, and if we are going to make all our decisions basis data rather than conviction, then every genre that works will saturate it within no time. The key, Apoorv, is to offer a very wide diversity of content at any given point of time to every kind of a demographic there is. It's important for an animal and a gadar to be releasing as important as it is for a 12th fair or Lapata Ladies or, a niche film maybe than any of those. It's important that we keep every section of the social strata engaged and excited about coming to the theaters and consuming our content at any given point of time. And only then will we be able to sustain this business. By just, by saying that, acha, these big ticket mass action films are working, if everyone is going to do only those, then you're disengaging from the audience that likes rom-coms. You're disengaging from the audience that likes
rom-coms today.
Exactly. And it's extremely sad, right? And people who say that rom-coms aren't for the big screen, what was Rocky or Rani ki Prem Kahani? It did so well.
It was a great film.
It was a great film. It's about presenting them in a manner with all the bells and whistles to just get people excited enough to consume it in cinema halls. And the day we can do that, people will turn up like they did for Rocky or Rani.
But then that happened because of the conviction of Karan Johar. I think he's the proprietor and he's the creative guy as well.
So we need to rely as much on conviction as we do on data. Had we relied on data, right? I mean, now flip the equation. Till 2008, it was these rom-coms and, that was the era where a Namaste London used to be a big hit, right? Yeah. And then it took, Prabhudeva, Boni Kapoor and Salman Khan to have that conviction and say that everyone's saying multiplex films chal rahi hai, single screen ki ticket sirf 80 rupees ki hai, multiplex ki 200 rupees ki hai. So let's sell a 200 rupee ticket instead of an 80 rupee ticket and more money. It took them the conviction to say, nahin, let's come with a Wanted and reopen those single screens and show what the potential of that market is. And after that, there was Ghajini, there was Wanted, there was Singham, and then it became an era, Dabang, so many of those, right? Where everyone and their mothers wanted to do only those.
Yeah.
So this bhedchal of trying to replicate somebody else's success is a very scary thing. Every filmmaker, every storyteller, every actor needs to have their own specialization, right? Back in the day, you had an Amitabh Bachchan doing what he was doing and an Amol Palekar doing what he was doing. Right. And somewhere in the middle, a Jitendra and a Mithun Chakravarti doing what they were doing. Right. Today, every actor wants to be a part of that film that can potentially do a 500 crores at the box office. Where are those people who will create that 100 crore rupees, 80 crore rupees, 70 crore rupees at the box office ki film, which is still a hit because of the economics involved? what I miss in this day and age is what, let's say, Mahesh Bhatt and Mukesh Bhatt used to do, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned Avarapan.
Right.
Avarapan, Jannat, Gangster, so many of those films. Ashiki. So many of those films,
right,
which did a certain number, but because they were budgeted so reasonably, they were
right,
all blockbusters.
Right.
Not everyone was trying to make a Salman Khan film. There was an Imran Hashmi film, right? Today, we are actually missing out on people who are trying to be the Jitendras and the Imran Hashmis of our time.
Right.
And the day we can do that, where somebody has the conviction to say, nahi, mujhe nahi karna hai 500 crore box office pe. I want to make a film that even at 60 crores at the box office will be a blockbuster because it will be budgeted rationally accordingly. It's about creating films with a large intrinsic value in terms of its intellectual appeal at smaller budgets.
Yep.
Right? Munja is a very good example of it.
Amazing film.
That only and only happened because of a director's and a filmmaker's, a producer's conviction. Kudos to Dinesh Vijan and to Amar Kaushik and the people who backed that film. Who would have thought, right, that we'll make a film with a new kid in Mona Singh and put it out in theatres. And that conviction is what made the 100 crores happen at the box office for Munja. And that's what made it, in terms of the return on investment, a much bigger blockbuster than many of the films that did those 400 and 500
How did that
crores at the
film
box
happen? Are you aware? Like, if you could take us through, वो क्यों बनी and वैसी फिल्में क्यों नहीं बन रही
Dinesh
हैं?
Vijan's conviction. Got to say that, I mean, see, there are very few filmmakers in this day and age who want to take those risks. And here's the thing, right? I mean, higher the risk, higher the returns. When everyone wants to just play safe and play for a draw, where will you score the victories? Unfortunately, most filmmakers today are playing for a draw. They are playing with a safety net. Where they want a scenario where we assemble something of a film, 70% of the budget of it is pre-recovered by some streaming platform in, satellite channels and music being bought out in advance. और हम 20% का risk ले लेंगे. यार अगर वो होता तो लगान कभी नहीं बनती, वो होता तो गदर कभी नहीं बनती, वो होता तो एनिमल कभी नहीं बनती, वो होता तो स्ट्रीट 2 जैसी फिल्म में राजकुमार राव कभी नहीं बनती. Right? So somewhere it is about the intrinsic nature of this business is that it's laden with risk. People who have the ability and the appetite to take those risks should be a part of it. And they will, I can assure you. I mean, Apoorv, fortune favors the brave. And unfortunately, we don't have enough filmmakers, producers, studios who are brave enough in this day and age. Back in the day, we did. Till not very long ago. And somewhere it's also justified because the stakes have become so high. You have actors charging a 70, 80, 90, 100 crore rupees, which honestly is very unjustified because they can't even guarantee you a day one at the box office which is equal to even half of what they charge as their fee.
Why are they getting paid then?
The law of demand and supply. How many people do you have in this industry among actors, 5 to 6, who today nobody guarantees a box office? Very few, 5 or 6. People who at least ensure familiarity is what a lot of filmmakers are trying to play safe on. That familiarity is what ensures something of a sale with the streaming platforms, with the satellite channels and all of that. And that's why the ability to de-risk those projects with some actors who don't guarantee jack shit at the box office, but maybe help you or give you preferential access to a sale on streaming and all of that is what they're punting on.
Would you suggest then for a filmmaker to rather, if he has that influence, let's say an Amir Khan Productions or a Karan Johar, should they just make the film on their own without worrying about pre-selling it to an OTT platform or a studio?
Some of them are doing it now.
Okay.
I mean, if you look at Amir Khan, he made a Lapata Ladies where a studio did come on board. But how many people would have the conviction to make a film with newcomers and with Ravi Kishan in it? Probably being the most familiar face from that cast.
Right.
So it took Amir Khan that risk appetite or that conviction to make a Lapata Ladies, and he did. And look at what, it's not just earned money, it's also earned a lot of acclaim, it's also earned a lot of glory.
Of course.
Right? In the world over. So I really think it's about pushing that envelope and padding it up by ensuring that the efficiency in production, the cost of production is optimized. Right? Unfortunately, a lot of what we spend on production and promotions doesn't have impact when it comes to sales and recoveries and revenues. It's actually more for vanity. You don't require a lot of things that are done to promote films or to make films to be done. And they're just done to massage the egos of people who are a part of it.
Such as?
putting up, hoardings all over certain cities and all of that. Yeah, I mean, what I genuinely believe, the factor that makes an overwhelming majority, maybe 90% of the people decide whether they want to watch a particular film or not, is the trailer. Most of them know by just watching the trailer at the back of their minds कि ये देखना है या ये नहीं देखना है. Make a great film, put out a trailer, amplify that well, rather than going to silly reality show. And see, I'm not saying it's not required for films. For a film with Shah Rukh Khan, Amir Khan, Salman Khan, Akshay Kumar, Ajay Devgan, Hrithik Roshan, everybody who wants to watch those is aware of those films. A Kapil Sharma show or an Indian Idol, these are very important to promote not these films, but to promote smaller films that a Lapata Ladies with Ravi Kishan being top line in it, or a 12th Fail. It's important because to create amplified awareness around these films, you need these platforms. But for a Jawan to go onto one of these shows, it doesn't make sense because it's more the show benefiting from Shah Rukh Khan's presence than the other way around. Right. So it's about choosing your mediums correctly and spending your money right on mediums and avenues of promotions that actually have impact on box office, rather than stuff that's seen as hygiene because हर कोई कर रहा है तो हम भी कर रहे हैं.
Exactly. I think वो वहाँ पे भी है, saving your own neck, जैसे आपने कहा on Netflix.
Possibly.
Tried and tested.
ये फिल्म चली थी, इसने ये किया तो हम भी ये करते हैं.
Right.
Now here's the thing, maybe the demographic of your film or the psychographics that your film caters to are not the same as that one. So it needs to not be vanilla vignette copy-paste plans, but it needs to be a bespoke marketing distribution plan for every single film. You need to first identify what your audience is, who are the people that you're speaking to. Then you need to identify where are those people consuming their information from. And that's where you need to place your film, rather than, going with the promotions of a Pushpa 2, where the promotions of, now I'll give you another example, right? Thankfully, both these films are blockbusters, but Allu Arjun for Pushpa 2, do you know where he launched his campaign from for Pushpa 2? With a huge event in Patna.
Oh, okay.
Now, for a film like Pushpa 2, Patna is a huge market. It's a mass market. On the flip side, there are a bunch of Hindi films that to replicate what Pushpa did and so successfully, they said कि चलो हम Patna में promote करते हैं. Now, unfortunately, for the kind of film that you've made, Patna is not the right market, right? For a film like Chhawa, it was good to see that they went into the grassroots of Maharashtra because it's a story that appeals predominantly to Maharashtra. It became a blockbuster the nation over, which is great. But the core market of that film was Maharashtra. So, and they did a good job of making sure that it was promoted through the length and breadth of Maharashtra and then also across the country. But to replicate something that's successful for a film that doesn't essentially have the same target audience and trajectory is a bit silly.
Got it. Makes sense. Do you think that वो objectivity नहीं है in the industry? We spoke initially about the talent gap. Do you think bringing in more people who are not from the industry and are not influenced by people in the industry have that objectivity could help in this
100%. Apoorv, why do you think I do those sessions that I do at ISP? I mean, the teaching is great and all, but I get to learn so much from you guys. Right. Because all of us who are in the entertainment ecosystem, somewhere beyond a point, interacting with each other, get into a bit of an echo chamber, where something that is, so to say, traditional knowledge is something that all of us keep speaking to each other about, and then we actually don't push the envelope beyond a point. To hear from you or from any of the students at ISB about how they perceive the entertainment sector, what their consumption patterns are, what their preferences are, what their choices are, actually broadens our horizons and allows us to learn so much about the way our consumers are thinking, because each one of you are potential consumers for entertainment.
Yep, of course.
And I really think that it's critical for all of us to just break out of this, this cocoon that we are all in, proactively or otherwise, and to actually see what's happening around the world. Because as storytellers, we're just trying to appeal to the taste, preferences, choices, entertainment needs of an audience that is not us. And we'll never be able to do that unless we understand you.
Right.
And the day we can do that, I'm sure we'll do a lot better than we do right now.
Do you think raising investor money would help? Like, getting all those VC firms.
It's already happening at a certain level, right? I mean, see, Maddox, which is Dinesh Vijan's company, had an investment from Reliance. Dharma has had an investment from Mr. Azhar Poonawala. So that's beginning to happen. But the point is, I think it's, if we actually just make better films and start making our monies from the audiences, we may not require that to happen. We can be self-sustained if we just understand our demographics better. And to do that, we need to get out of the ivory towers that we are in. We need to get out of that Juhu to Bandra stretch. How many filmmakers, how many actors, Apoorv, do you think go, forget about to understand the audience or to really see what the demographics are, how many of them do you think go to places to promote their films where a charter plane can't land? That's why we're just alienating ourselves so much from the real audience. And then we say, yeah, I mean, आप promote करने चले आते हो एक गेटी गैलेक्सी में या राज मंदिर जयपुर में, which are iconic places. When will we see a day when actors actually go to watch films in those cinemas with that audience and see how they are reacting, see where they are, walking out to take a loo break because they don't like what they're watching? We aren't doing that. We are doing our, consumption in private preview theaters or in the gold class of a PVR where the audience is not even reacting.
Yep.
So we are proactively, unfortunately, alienating ourselves in the name of privacy or to create that perception of stardom, which is bullshit, right? That stardom is what most of our actors really work hard and hustle for. And the day they have it, they want to put their dark shades and a cap on with a mask and walk it in the airport and keep themselves away from an audience, which makes them the stars that they are. That's extremely sad.
Right. Do you think, you spoke about the fees which these actors are demanding, 70, 80, 90 crores. Do you think it's justified? Like, why are they getting paid so much? Who makes these P&Ls?
Apoorv, there are two jobs, right? They are actors, they are stars. An actor's job is to deliver a damn good performance on the screen. A star's job is to sell tickets in cinema halls, to sell your streaming rights to a Netflix, Amazon, Hotstar, Z5, whatever, to sell your terrestrial satellite rights to a Sony, Colors, whatever, to sell your music to a T-Series, Tips, Z Music, or whatever, right? So a star's job is to ensure sales, is to ensure the financial recoveries, right? Jaideep Ahlawat, Nawazuddin Siddiqui, Pankaj Mishra are damn good actors. But is a movie that's mounted on their shoulders going to ensure anything of a box office? No.
But does it need to? If that film is made at a cost of 7-8 CR and it delivers 20 CR?
Apoorv, unfortunately, it's not even delivering a 20 crores at the box office. Okay. It has to be a damn good film. And those are just 1 or 2 in a year for those recoveries to happen. So you don't pay a Salman Khan what you pay him for his acting abilities. You pay him what you pay him because his presence ensures the sale.
But kitna pay karna chahiye? What do you think should be the metric? Day one business, day one or day 3, weekend?
See, it's a simple thing, right? What you pay them versus what you recover because they are on the poster of that film. That ratio has to be right.
Which is what?
Have you watched a movie called Kisi Ka Bhai, Kisi Ki Jaan? Have you watched Sikandar? These are films that really have, not too much of appreciation in terms of the merit of their content. But these are films that did 100 and 200 crores respectively at the box office. Okay. You know why that happened?
Salman.
Because of sheer stardom of Salman Khan. And that is what justifies his fee. Now the problem is a lot of people who don't deliver those numbers at the box office, irrespective of the merit of the film, also want to charge a certain fee without, ensuring or guaranteeing anything of a sale. That's where the cookie crumbles. And that's where I think filmmakers need to put their foot down and be a little more rational and have those conversations with these actors. Chalo, aap D1 itna ensure karoge with the film, I pay you an X amount of money for it. Aap ensure karoge ki streaming or satellite se mere itne revenues aa jayenge, I pay you money for it. The problem is a lot of these mid-segment, so to say, stars, actors who are neither here nor there are justifying are demanding a stupid price and getting it because filmmakers have a FOMO around, chalo, is pe satta khelte hain rather than, playing it on a rank newcomer. Where you know that your streaming right, your satellite rights in your box office won't be insured. So they are playing that punt on familiarity rather than on conviction.
But what is the hierarchy, like without taking names in the industry? If you could just tell us, these are 5 superstars, they get paid so much, इतना bracket है इनका, उसके बाद next level के actors कितने हैं and उनको कितना bracket होता है and उसके बाद कितने, how many levels are there, how many actors are there at each level, what do they get paid?
Yeah, Apoorv, so the top stars that you have, right? Shah Rukh Khan, Salman Khan, Amir Khan, Hrithik Roshan, Ajay Devgan, most of them now are in that scenario where rather than charging an upfront fee, where they know that they ensure a profitability, they are becoming stakeholders in the films. So most Shah Rukh Khan films are being produced by Shah Rukh Khan. Most Salman Khan films now are being produced by Salman Khan. Most Ajay Devgan films are now being produced by Ajay Devgan.
Right.
So they are not just ensuring profitability on those projects by having skin in the game and by becoming partners rather than vendors. They're also building their own legacy by owning the IP of those films.
Fair enough.
It's the mid-segment actors where that equilibrium still needs to be found, right? For a Shahid Kapoor, for a John Abraham, for a Siddharth Malhotra, for a Varun Dhawan, who are neither ensuring that box office purely because of their presence in a film, nor are they completely ranked newcomers where absolutely nothing is guaranteed. The need to find that equilibrium is there. And there, I think it's important that a lot of these younger actors who are on their way to becoming stars for sure go in as, like I said, partners rather than vendors. Give it your all. Play that punt on yourself.
Okay.
Right? Bet on yourself and grow that market for yourself over time. And only when producers or people who put money on you are going to ensure that, when they with consistency start recovering their monies and make profits, will they want to bet more on you? Unfortunately, most of them are right now just trying to play safe and they're like, yaar, main 40 crore rupees lunga, uske baad jo karana hai kara lo, chali, aap mar gaye, nahi chali,
Yeah.
So that is where I think the things are a little lopsided. And the day that equilibrium can be found, I think more movies will be made, more people will be willing to bet more money on these actors, make better films, make bigger films, and that will only increase the probability of success.
Right. Of course.
So that's what needs to happen.
What do you think about Ranbir Kapoor and Ranveer Singh? You didn't put them in this bracket.
Yeah, see, Ranbir Kapoor right now, I think, is in a bracket where he is a true blue star and he ensures a certain scale of recoveries in a certain box office. So he is in that, that bracket as the biggest they are. Ranveer Singh, I think, great potential, but I think it's still some degree of consistency which he needs to succeed at the box office because before you can call him a true blue star. He has great potential. I think he's one of the most versatile actors who's also got interesting appeal with a certain audience.
Right.
But I think it'll take a degree of consistency of delivery of that box office before he can do that. And I genuinely believe that the next movie that he's a part of, Dhurandhar, has immense potential. And I really hope that he consolidates his position over time and delivers great numbers. Because as an industry, I can tell you, as an exhibitor, we need not just those 5 or 6 stars they are, we need 50 of those.
Right.
We need 52 of those to have at least one movie coming every week where we are assured of a certain business. Right now, there are only 6 or 7, maybe 10 movies in India where we know that itna box office aa jayega, itne revenues aa jayenge, which will allow us to take care of our operational expenses, forget about profits. We need that to happen with a greater frequency, and for that we need more bankable stars.
Who do you think is the next generation of bankable superstars or emerging superstars in India?
I mean, see, if you talk
both male and female.
See, I genuinely think Ranbir Kapoor is now a bona fide star. I think Varun Dhawan, Vicky Kaushal, Ranveer Singh, all of them have great potential. All of them have the ability to really consolidate that position. All it will take is making the right choices, right? And making the right choice of stories and making sure that those stories aren't burdened with their fee. So, see, the stardom of a Shah Rukh Khan, a Salman Khan wasn't built overnight or in a couple of years. It's been built over decades. So, this shortcut to commanding that sort of money is where the problem is. Build it over time, right? Be participants of the profits of the films rather than the expenses. And the day they can do that, over a period of time, they will build that stardom. They will have more people who will have the confidence to bet more money on the production values of films featuring them. Because if you burden it with your own fee, then the filmmakers will be cutting corners on the budgets, the scale, the promotions and all of that. And that just decreases your probability of return on investment and success.
Right. But who's your favorite actor? Like, not among these, let's say, even a newer generation. Like, people who've just maybe done 3-4 films. Among them, who do you think is an interesting actor or actress?
Actor or star? Or potential star?
Both.
Yeah, I really think we don't have people who've shown enough promise to be true blue superstars in this generation yet. But among actors, I think Agastya Nanda is very interesting. Vedang Rayana is very interesting. Actresses, I think among the younger actresses, I mean they've done more than 2 or 3 films. But I genuinely think Janhvi Kapoor has potential. Unfortunately, a lot of what's written and spoken about her overshadows her abilities as an actor, which, and I'm not saying she's outstanding from day one. She, of course, was rough on the edges, but she's actually shown great signs of being a performer with every single film.
She's done very interesting films. Yeah.
She's done very interesting films. So quite a few people, I think, who have that sort of potential. Ananya Pandey, I was extremely surprised watching in that the Excel film that came on Netflix, Kho Gaye Hum Kahan. I thought she was very, very good. And unfortunately, the optics and the PR around her show her to be this bimbo, and I think she's significantly more than just that. So a lot of them have potential, and I really hope that all of them really can consolidate their.
What do you think of Adarsh Gaurav?
Interesting, but I think it'll still take a while before he can really, open his wings and capture and conquer the horizons that I think he's very capable of.
And also we spoke about Salman, so he still guarantees that stardom, 100 crore, 200 crore, but he still hasn't been able to deliver a super hit like Dabangg or Bajrangi Bhaijaan the last 4-5 years. Why do you think that's happening? Is there something wrong with the kind of films he's doing, or do you think he's not marketing them well enough? What's happening?
I think it's a mix and match of all of these things. First things first, it's about the choices that you make, the filmmakers that you choose to work with. See, I genuinely think that an actor or a star, rather than getting into every function of cinema, and I'm not saying Salman Khan does, generally speaking, right? When you hire a professional who is damn good at his or her job, let them do their job and don't interfere in it. Let the director direct, let the cinematographer decide how he wants to take shots. Let a choreographer who's, done great amounts of work and knows how a song can be made to look amazing on the screen, do their job. So I think what the problem with a lot of the stars or the emerging stars that we have right now is that they want to get into every function of filmmaking without having, in-depth knowledge or absolute specialization in those functions. I call it the Amir Khan syndrome, where Amir Khan gets into the writing, gets into the editing, gets into the marketing, gets into the distribution, because I genuinely believe that Amir Khan doesn't have a star's mind. He has a producer's mind. He has a filmmaker's mind.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of the younger stars who also choose to get into those functions don't have that expertise and understanding of the market and the business to the extent that Amir Khan does, and that's where the cookie crumbles.
Got it. Makes sense. Do you think that for Shah Rukh Khan, I feel like it's been a great year for him last year with all those 3 hit films. Do you think that also gives them a sense of freedom to do the films that they would want to do, like some sort of experimental cinema as well?
Absolutely, and I mean they've done it, right? I mean, like Shah Rukh Khan, if you look at it, did I'm forgetting the name of that film he did with Alia Bhatt, Kunal Kapoor,
Dear
Zindagi, right? So he did that. He did a Paheli, right? Where he did a Swades back in the day, right? At the peak of his career.
Of course.
So as long as they don't burden these films with their market rate that they command for a mainstream commercial hit, they absolutely should experiment with these sort of films every once in a way. Showcase their versatility as actors, push the envelope for smaller films, give these, so to say, intrinsically smaller films a larger intrinsic value by purely being present in them. And all of them do that, right? I mean, Amir Khan's done that with A Secret Superstar, with Tare Zameen Par. Salman Khan's done that with a film like Marigold, right? Ajay Devgan's done that with a film like Raincoat. Akshay Kumar has done that with a film like 8x10 Tasveer, with Padman, with Toilet Ek Prem Katha. So for every Toilet Ek Prem Katha, he's also done a Rowdy Rathod. Right. Salman Khan, for every Marigold, he's also done a Wanted, Dabangg, or Bodyguard.
Yeah.
Amir Khan's done those Dhoom 3s and, the big ticket films for every Lapata Ladies. So they should mix it up. But having said that, I think it's also somewhere their responsibility See, it's only these handful of stars that make the big turnover happen for the entire entertainment ecosystem. The distributors, the exhibition sectors, the ancillary industries to do with the exhibition sector rely on the footfalls that come when these guys do those big ticket mass entertainer, big ticket, mainstream films. So, like it used to be back in the day, Amitabh Bachchan would do 10 Diwars and Agnipats and Sholais and Shans, while they would also do a Chukke Chukke or a Kasme Wade or any of these smaller films, right? So today it's important for these mainstream stars to do many more of the big mainstream films that ensure the sustenance of the entire value chain. And then once in a way, spend a 30 days or a 40 days in making these experimental films. So their responsibilities as stars is not just towards their own bank balance and their own people. It's towards the entire ecosystem, which has actually made them the stars that they are.
Right.
So the day they can find that balance in the right ratio, I think all is going to be good.
What do you think are the most set of upcoming films and projects that are coming up in the next 1 or 2 years? Let's say if you could give us 3 or 4 films that you think you're very excited about.
Yeah, so extremely excited about Ranbir Kapoor's Love and War with Sanjay Leela Bhansali, Vicky Kaushal, Alia Bhatt. Again, talking of Ranbir Kapoor, extremely excited about Nitish Tiwari's Ramayan,
of course,
which I think is going to be huge. Ranveer Singh in Dhurandhar looks very, very promising. Shah Rukh Khan, Siddharth Anand, Abhishek Bachchan in King, I think that is going to be a lot of fun.
What's that about?
So that's Shah Rukh Khan, Suhana Khan and Abhishek Bachchan in a Siddharth Anand film. In Siddharth Anand film, the absolute entertainers, right? The film that Atlee is making with Allu Arjun, I believe that is pushing the envelope in terms of the technological advances which are being adapted for storytelling. So that's extremely exciting. Quite a few films like that, yeah. I really, and then, I mean, there are a whole lot of our filmmakers, like Jolly LLB 3. I think is a film that I thoroughly like courtroom dramas. I think Vivek Agnihotry's Delhi Files, I mean, Kashmir Files did a certain amount of business, Tashkent Files. So that trilogy, I think, has a lot of potential. So quite a few films out there, which I'm very, very excited about. And also I'm hoping that much like our stars who are on the screen, we have a lot of star filmmakers who, purely by their name being put on a film, there's a certain audience that looks forward to them. So I really am waiting for Rajkumar Hirani to start his next. I want Karan Johar as a director to start his next. I hope Aditya Chopra starts his next.
Farhan Akhtar.
I hope Suraj Barjatya, Farhan Akhtar, a lot of these star directors whose names, Rohit Shetty, so many of them, right? Their names ensure or guarantee a certain entertainment value in a certain box office. So I hope a lot of them also venture back into, handling their job as a director rather than just being producers. So hoping that all of them also get onto the saddle.
Right. I wonder why Farhan Akhtar is not directing. He hasn't directed in a while. I mean, every film of his has been perfect.
I mean,
right from Lakshya to Dil Chahta Hai
to Dawn, and absolutely. So, I mean, it's about prioritization, right? He changed tracks, became more of an actor and a producer than a director. But there is talk of him getting back into it with Dawn 3, and the sooner the better, because he is one of the filmmakers whose work I thoroughly enjoy.
Tell us about some interesting stories, like anecdotes of the industry, maybe something around a project that you saw developing and it got shelved, or a project that casting changed at the last instant, without taking names maybe, but ऐसा कुछ हुआ है जो आपको लगा हो कि यार ये this was something that I had not expected. It was a change of perspective for you also in the industry.
So many, right? I mean, like Farhan Akhtar was supposed to direct a road trip film with Alia Bhatt, Priyanka Chopra, and Katrina Kaif, Jile Zara.
Yeah.
Really looking forward to it, and I don't really know what's happening to it. What else? I think, trying to think which are the other films that were meant to happen and did. I think Salman Khan was supposed to go back to, doing a Dharma film in the form of a film called Bull, which was supposed to be a film about the armed forces. Looking forward to that collaboration. Unfortunately, I believe that's fallen apart. Quite a few films like that. I mean, which were meant to happen, unfortunately didn't, or maybe they'll happen at some point of time. So, I mean, it's everyone tries, right? I mean, Ram Gopal Verma tried to make Sholay and it turned out to be Ram Gopal Verma ki aag. So everyone tries to make a blockbuster, tries to mount them well, tries to give them, give those films their all. But ultimately, it's audience devo bhava. And every Friday decides our fate and decides whether we are, having a drink to celebrate or having a drink to mourn.
You spoke about Ramgopal Verma. It reminded me of Anurag Kashyap. What's up with him?
I mean, see, he's an incredibly talented guy, and he is somebody who has a damn good command over the Hindi language, and we make Hindi films. He's somebody who's been very interesting with the kind of films that he's made in the past. And he is somebody I'm at a certain level genuinely fond of, right? Because him and me, with our choice of films, with our political beliefs, with our, with a lot of things, are chalk and cheese. We are East and West.
Oh, okay.
The only thing that we bond on very weirdly is our love for food. And even there we are chalk and cheese, right? He's a hardcore meat eater, I'm vegan.
Oh, okay.
But the thing is, the sheer common love for food is something that actually made us bond after years of us clawing each other on the social media, right? I really think that not just him, but most filmmakers need to clearly put a distinction between their personal beliefs and their work. And the day they can do that, I think they'll prosper. Yeah. I mean, we need to realize that filmmaking is not just an art form, it's also a business. And when somebody puts their money on you, they expect a certain return on investment. And if trying to promote your political beliefs or your personal beliefs through your films is detrimental to that happening, the cookie will crumble, and there will be people who would, really not be too comfortable with that. So, if you want to put out a certain personal or a political viewpoint, tweet. Don't make a film.
Right.
And when you're making a film, be responsible towards the people who've invested their hard-earned money onto you. And like I said, this is not just about Anurag, this is about every filmmaker there is. So that distinction needs to be there. And if your personal beliefs and you're amplifying them on a social media platform or through the interviews is detrimental to the recoveries of the money that somebody else has put on your film, I think it's not being very responsible. So then you have to take the blame for what happens rather than blaming others.
Right. Since you are talking about advice to filmmakers, what would be your advice to a young wannabe filmmaker, for instance, a 20-something guy who wants to make a film but doesn't have any connects in the industry? How should they go about it? What should be the right strategy?
Apoorv, content creation has democratized so much in this day and age. Like if you look at what's happening right now, right? We are shooting this podcast where there's one camera, a couple of mics, and some lights. This costs literally nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Compared to what the hundreds of crores that are spent on making a film. The best way for you to ask for a job or to try and create a job for yourself is by showing what your capabilities are. And today it's extremely cost effective and cheap, if I may call it that, to be able to do that. So my advice to anybody who's young and wants to make a career in this space is to not wait for the gig, but to make the gig. To make a short film, you can, iPhones today, right? Or any phones today have such good cameras that you can actually make a film that can be shown on, on the theatrical screen. Like that degree of quality of visuals is now capturable.
Right.
So because it's something that every person is now capable of, the only thing that distincts somebody who succeeds and who doesn't is their storytelling abilities. And those don't come at a cost.
Right.
So I really think that people who think they have it should actually try and make something, put it out, and even to monetize it today or to put it out, channels like YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Ghana, you can just license it without spending any money. With some degree of promotion and the ability to create discoverability, you can actually earn a name. And then I can assure you, if you do a good job, you won't have to look for the jobs. The jobs will come looking for you.
Got it. And I think that's why we've seen a lot of influencers and content creators also becoming actors recently.
Absolutely, right.
Bassi and Tu Jhoti Mein Makar, Prajakta Kohli,
so many of these people are. I think there's demand for them because by creating their own gigs, they've earned a certain fan following, if I may call it that.
Right. Got it. Lastly, I'd like to ask you, what is your journey been like? Why did you want to get into this industry in the first place? What was your motivation? How far have you been able to achieve what you set out to achieve? And what's your goal for the next 5-7 years?
So, Apoorv, I entered this industry being a little lucky because I was born into it, right? I'm the fourth generation in my family that's been running cinemas and distributing films. So, having said that, there are lots of people in my family and in my generation who've chosen to not take this line up.
Okay.
So, as much as I'm a product of nepotism, as they say, I also can assure you, Apoorv, that I've worked extremely hard to justify that privilege I've had, to justify that 1 foot into the business that I've had. And see, here's the thing, right? I mean, for every without naming these actors or people who come from film families and not been able to make great careers, there's a Kartik Aaryan out there, there is a Shah Rukh Khan out there, there's an Akshay Kumar out there, there's a Shashank Khaitan out there. There are so many people, I mean, I'm talking about actors and filmmakers, who made great careers having absolutely no background. So the only thing that I've been allowed is just that gateway into the industry. After that, if I've done anything in the little that I may have achieved, it's because I worked bloody hard to do it. And for anybody else who wants to enter this industry, it's about finding that access, yes. But after that, once you've found that access, it's about justifying your salary or your fees with your efforts. In the day you can do that, I can assure you, I mean, here's the thing, right? Everyone wants value out of the salary or the fee that they pay to a certain person. And if you justify it multi-bagger, there's no reason why people wouldn't want to work with you and, have you part of their business or their companies or their work.
But what's your vision? Do you want to start a production house of your own, for instance, later? Or do you want to continue doing the podcast? Or do you want to, as we spoke about you wanting to teach as well from your insights in the industry? What's your short-term, as an individual, what's your dream? Where do you want to see yourself after 5-7 years?
All of it, yeah. I mean, with friends of mine, I keep joking in terms of what our motto as a company is. And of course, it's not officially that. But if anybody asks us, Asman mein kitne tare hain, the only answer we want to have is sab hamare hain. So there are a lot of things that I want to do. The podcast that we're doing, the Filmy Hustle, which you can watch on India TV's YouTube channel or listen to on Spotify, Amazon, and a whole lot of forms. In a way, it's my give back to the industry, right? I mean, this is the entertainment industry is what has run my family's kitchen for close to 80 years. Unfortunately, today, if you hear the narrative around it, people think that there are a bunch of actors and filmmakers who ayyashi kar rahe hain. Apoorv, 1800 films a year don't get made because kuch 10 log koi ayyashi kar rahe hain, apparently, right? It happens because there are thousands and thousands of people that work hard, that have a certain intelligence, that have a certain degree of contribution that they make to this ecosystem. And that's why lakhs of foot soldiers earn their livelihood.
Right.
So I thought it's important to show that this industry is not just about actors and filmmakers. They are content marketers. There are entertainment journalists. There are people who work on music. There are people who work on production. There are people who work on direction. There are actors. There are people who do so many different things. And that's why intrinsically and conceptually, the podcast has one episode each about different functions of cinema.
Okay.
To really showcase all these things that go into creating those dreams. So that's the reason I've done this. And if it does well and, if there is demand for it, maybe we'll do a season 2. I don't know. I haven't thought about it
It's
yet.
a limited series.
It's 10 episodes that have already been shot, and we are putting one out every Sunday morning at 10 a.m.
Got it.
4 out, 6 to go. About, production, I mean, this is a podcast that I've co-produced with Mr. Goldie Bell, who is, somebody I consider a friend and like an elder brother for the last 15 years. So we've put it together in that sense. And about the cinemas, of course, I mean, it's my legacy and I want to take those forward.
But do you plan to get into fiction as well? Like creating a film or a web series?
Never say never, but at this point of time, I haven't really given it too much of thought. And about the teaching, again, I think that, it's about giving back at a certain level, because we've been fortunate to be in this industry and earn our livelihood through it. And I think the best way I can give back to this industry is by exciting very bright young minds in these premier B schools to be excited for the right reasons to come and participate in this industry's growth. So what we've done with your batch, let's say, right? And if you today want to be a part of this industry, you are from ISB, you have good education, you have a viewpoint. If I could, even in a tiny way, excite you enough to want to be a part of this industry with some objective understanding of this sector that I could give you, I think my job's done. And that's the reason I want to keep doing this over a period of time. And pretty much any B school or any premier institution that says that they want me to come and talk to the students about what this sector is about and the career opportunities here, I more often than not say yes. And, I'm excited to do this because one, I get to learn so much from these bright young minds and, get to know their viewpoints. And I get to really tell them what this industry is about for what it really is. So that is something that I'll always, give a thumbs up for.
I remember attending your sessions and they were very insightful. पहले तो मतलब it was just the glitz and glam of Bollywood that we knew. But after attending your sessions, working with you also closely, I got to understand how decisions are made in the industry. And even today, this discussion that we've had has given me a lot of perspective about the industry.
Glad.
Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence today and
Thank you.
coming here at such a short notice. It was it means a great deal for our team. Hope to host you again in the future as well, and open to any feedback as well. Anything that you'd like us to change in our podcast, add to our podcast, any future guests you could recommend.
Not at all,
anything.
yeah. I mean, the beauty of this format is that it's very free flowing, right? I mean, and I thoroughly enjoy conversations with people, across different functions, different professions, different lines of work. So truly a pleasure to be here, and I think I'm thankful and privileged to be representing the entertainment sector on this podcast, which I think is poised for growth. And if through this podcast your listenership can actually see the sector for the amazing things that it does, for the employment it generates, for the revenues that it generates,
Right.
for for the amazing stories it tells, which are Indian stories that can potentially be consumed by the world, and portray and show our country for its amazing diversity, culture, languages, etc. I think my job's done, and I'm really glad I could make it to this podcast.
Thank you so much. It was
Thanks
lovely
so
to
much,
host you.
Apoorv. Pleasure mine. Cheers.
Yes.